tiny hair. I think I still find pieces of blue hair in my sweaters. Oh gosh, I don't think people know what flocking is. That's a weird word to throw out there. It would cut to one frame and that would be Poofy Monkey. Oh, just a little wig. And we're done. Hi, my name is Jess Lynn. I'm a senior hair and fur fabricator. We are in the LAIKA Archives today, and we're going to talk hair and fur and the history of how it's been done here at the studio. When you do hair for stop motion, it's essentially a puppet on another puppet. The wigs in our movies have to be armatured, they have to be rigged, they have to have all the whistles and bells a lot of times that the full body of a puppet would have. When Coraline is looking in the tunnel and she's amazed and you see her hair blow back, that moment is about Coraline's excitement in the tunnel. It's not about her hair moving, blowing in the wind, but we're adding to that moment in the story with the wig, and that's when we've done our job right. The upside down wig, that was the first sign of where we were headed as a studio and what we wanted to do with the medium, to show this moment of all these individual strands falling down just for this shot of her looking under the bed. It's that fast. It just makes the world so much more real and full. It's really exciting to see this. This is an early R&D of Coraline. The artist used a technique when painting it with black hair, using blue as a highlight, sort of similar to what you see in comic books. The director really kind of locked into that blue and thought, hey, Coraline is this rebellious girl, and then that blue just, definitely defined Coraline. It became the girl that we know.
My other mother would get them.
Maybe she should buy all your clothes.
So this is a wig and fur Bible, but this is for Coraline. We had two Bibles. One for the real world, one for the other world, because the builds of each character were different. These things are just chock full of notes about process, about early designs, sometimes failed designs. It's the schematics, it's the map. Sometimes when you've got a character like Norman, they get their own Bible because they're so specific in the process. It's really fun to see these early schematics of what the wig cap was going to be like. When we make wigs, we start from a structural standpoint, and so all these puppets have wig caps. You can kind of see on these poor little stunt wigs, there's a hard base under here, and that's what this drawing is. It's a schematic of what that wig cap would look like. When you look through the Bible, you can see different tests that we did to figure out what Norman's hair was going to be made out of. One of these, trash bags. I don't know, we tried trash bags. As we started to do more and more samples, we realized that we loved these spikes, but we didn't want them to just always end in like a sharp, fine point. And so we started playing around with organic materials, and we started to use goat hair. And what we liked about goat hair was that when you styled it, you could get this really defined spike shape, but then it would soften. The thing that wasn't great is it's not as maybe flexible or malleable, but if something gives you the look that you want, you will do everything in your power to just make it work. Courtney was sort of unique, where when we were talking about her ponytail, we knew we needed the ponytail part of the wig to look fluffy and diaphanous and have this sort of bounce and lightness to it. So we experimented with passive hair, where we have one armatured wire that runs the length of her ponytail, and then all that hair is just dressed and attached from this point to this grip point. So that way, when the animator starts moving the ponytail, all this hair moves on its own. And then by giving them this grip point, they know they have a safe place that they can put their hands. And then at the bottom of the ponytail, we did return back to an armatured strand situation, so that way they can get sort of like flare on the ends of the ponytail.
Perfect. Now the geeks are in charge.
In Box Trolls, the line language of the film was very organic, and so we ended up actually going for hemp. We really loved how hemp is this organic strand, but we were able to style it and work with it in a way that we felt it read as hair, but the line language just had a lot of happy accidents, I guess is the way to say it. And the way that we ultimately worked with the hemp was we would saturate the strands in a group, and then we would have these sheets of glass, and we would put that saturated group of strands onto the glass, and then you kind of squeegee it and style it and get these big, wide, organic braid shapes that then I was able to essentially kind of weave in and out of each other and interweave with each other to make these larger sculptural shapes. In a lot of ways, these wigs were more like basket weaving than they were like wig making, especially in really complex worlds like Box Trolls, where we have the Box Trolls themselves living underground, we have the people of Cheesebridge, we have lots of background characters, we have sort of the upper class characters. So as you can see, the information and the hair Bibles just keep getting bigger and bigger. Kubo was a huge, daunting project. We weren't the hair and fur department yet. This is the movie where we became the hair and fur department. You know, this is a monkey that's going to sword fight and emote, run around, jump, crawl, be in a snowstorm, windstorm, rainstorm. What does that fur look like? How does it move? How does this fur move and stretch over a full body? Over here we have the first test puppet that was created. We decided that rather than making an armature puppet that had a fully like silicone or foam body, that this was going to be made more flat patterned. So we have literally a muscle suit underneath here made out of various bean bags and elastic for tension. And then there was a secondary skin made out of this fun fur that was draped over it. And then some extra hair kind of dressed onto it. And we ended up using silicone combed through the fur to try to contain it, so that way it had a style and an organized sense about it. And then we also had to decide at what point does the 3D printed material start and then meet up with essentially the first suit that we were going to make. So I'll show you if I take Monkey's face off. So this is obviously still a 3D printed brow for the puppet. And then this piece right here is what we would call a wig cap. That is 3D printed material, but we've also started interspersing some of the silicone pieces amongst that material to kind of transition the look. And then that stops right about here and it goes into the fully furred suit. What's really crazy about this fur is that these are 3D printed shapes and all these shapes are hand cut. This was all something done by extremely talented hair and fur artists. So even though we're using this new technology, Monkey is still very much handmade. With Monkey, we had a 3D printed head, we had silicone cast legs and feet, and then we had this fur suit that we had made. So we had multiple materials, all that we had to make sure looked good together. And on Missing Link, we were like, how do we unify this? So with Susan, even though there was some early look dev experimenting with fabric and paper and unique materials, the decision to go all silicone came pretty early on. And that was because we knew that the shapes that Susan's body needed to make were going to have this more amorphous squash and stretch, and silicone was going to give us more, literally, flexibility. That is when the rest of the puppet department joined into the hair and fur department, in that a lot of Susan's fur was created by silicone casting in the molds department. But we still had a part to play. We were responsible for dressing Susan's cowl. So how do you dress a cowl? Once we understood what the base shape was going to be, and we understood what the fur petals, if you will, shapes were going to be, we would start to arrange them exactly how we wanted, so that way, as Susan moves their head around, you can get the squash and stretch, but you still see that fur organizing itself. So once we found a way that we liked how it moved, it was like, okay, great, now we have to repeat this. And this is like reassembling a puzzle piece. So we ended up essentially, after dressing a cowl, taking each piece off and then laying it down flat and making a map, which is sort of what we have here. It's a flat pattern or map of Susan's fur pieces. That was very intensive work, even though, you know, we have all these other people working so hard to do the rest of the fur, but we still had people in the hair and fur team who, I mean, spent months just dressing cowls. This is the stuff I love, because every artist, essentially, who's been in the hair and fur department add their cute little drawings and their personalities. This isn't just the map of how we build the link cowl, but this is going out of our way to explain how it's supposed to perform, so that way when people are building these things, they can understand why we made the choices that we do.
You know, it's the hair that makes me look heavier, I think. It's a little deceptive. It can be frustrating, but...
And look at the size of those metatarsals.
Whoa, sir! Wow, your hands!
Okay, so that was an enjoyable tour of how we make hair and fur here at LAIKA Studios. I really appreciate LAIKA Archives for allowing us to come in and unlock some of these doors and pull back the curtain so we can share with you about our process. I really hope you enjoyed it, and thanks again for watching the episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe.